this room. I really haven't. I don't get a lot of emails. I don't get a lot of, I need you, I'm on fire. I haven't got it. And this is the first year in, I don't know when, that it's been that way. My husband loves you. Because he's like, great, because you're with me. And you're not with him. But it also tells me that somebody in this room is drowning and don't know how to answer help. And this is not the place to sit back and say, I'm going to do what I'm doing and it's going to get better. What you're doing isn't working by midterm. In case you weren't clear, we're at midterm. And if it's not working now, it's not going to start working tomorrow. You got to change something. You got to do something a little bit different. Right now, you're 25 strong. I promise you, you will not end up 25 strong. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. So it's up to you if you're here more than anybody else. You got to step up. And it frustrates me because I feel like I've said this every class, and I'm still getting the same response. I just thank you people who love me, and I love them. They all hit me up. I'm like, hey, there you go. I missed you. It's been like 4 hours. So some people are hitting me up, and I appreciate it. You're not getting on my nerves. And I know that my persona is often very do it right now. But I also want you to understand, and I say this again every year, and the second year is making me laugh the other day, because they sat where you were a year ago. I take my job very seriously. I don't do anything after that. That's just my style. I also understand that in the clinical world, we're in a position of delegation. So the minute you say I'm a PT assistant, some people are going to be like, oh, well, is there a PT? Or what does it mean that you're an assistant? Or why are you just an assistant? I've been practicing a long time. I have quite a reputation. I know what it is, and I'm okay with it. I still have people say, when you going to PT school? Boo, I'm good. I don't need you to decide what's best for me. I'm okay. But it does make me know that my team respects what I do, and I bring what I need to bring to the table. So when I'm working with you guys, it's about knowing that we're being delegated to. So if I pass you halfway, I'm setting you up to fail. Because though there are PTs out there who are going to love and respect you and be the best teammates you've ever had. There are also some out there who are going to challenge you and be like, you don't know what you're doing. Do it the way I said it because I said so. But you have a license to protect. And that's what today is about. And as much as the law is nitpicky, I can't not teach you the right way. Because if I don't, you're going to fail. Rather it be the board exam or rather it be in life. When I get feedback from the board, very few of our students ever get done. Why? Because I take the time to give it to you straight, no chaser. I don't cut anything out. And other curriculums are trying to do it this way because their outcomes are not as good. I'm not trying to drive you crazy. I'm trying to meet you at the end of the road. You said you wanted to do when you signed up for the program. There were more than 100 people that applied for this. We turn people away to take you. My job is to get you there, but I can't drag you. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying that to say it does me good if you don't email me because I can go to the mall. But that's not who I am. So the lack of your response to me makes me question how much you guys get this or how much you really want it. Because if you're drowning and you're not moving, then you're willing to drown. We don't round up. If you get a 74.9, you are done. If you get a 75 on the dot, you move forward. It's that clear. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to start law today. We have a quiz next week. I will stay active. If I stay by myself like the last 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to the store. But I will stay. I'm not going to stay by myself. Okay? If you're passing and you think it's crazy, ride the train. I hope it works for you. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. But if you're not, you should not be walking out of here going somewhere else unless you don't have an option. And I understand that. I have a family. I get it. But you got to want it. I can't want it for you anymore than I already want. You clear?
Yeah.
So turn to the law section, and I'm going to read you pretty much. No, no, let me tell you, you can say highlight the whole page, but you really don't have to highlight the whole page. But in some instances, there will be a lot. What I do not expect you to do is say, in section 13-101, is this. We're not voting. What I do have to have you understand is the application of what the law means. Because we're probably the most vulnerable in the PT department. And I say that that because the tests have a very clear-cut level of what they can do. Some people go beyond that, but there's really no gray area. With PTAs, once that eval is done, we can pretty much do our thing. What comes in play for us is when we use a test, and are we doing it the right way? When we delegate our information back to the PTs, are we communicating enough with them? Are we making sure we understand our own limitations? Do we communicate amongst the other members of the team within our scope of practice? So we have a lot more options to break the law than probably everybody else in the PT department. So it's important that you understand what the law is and then how it applies to what we do every day. Okay? So we're going to go that route. There are some slides that I changed because I want them to visually look different. There's a slide in your book where I compare PT and PTA side by side or top to bottom because it just makes sense. But we're going to go through kind of those things, and some of my slides up here will be the simplistic, but I'm not going to give you all of these slides because there are things on the slide that are in your, there are things not on there that are in the law itself that is important. Okay? When we think about Title 10 and Title 13, Title 13, we actually, if you think numerically, we're reading back. So Title 13 talks more about the composition of the board, how not to get in trouble, and what those grounds for reprimands are. So it's more of the overall law, okay? So who the board is, how people get on this board that we keep talking about, what their role and responsibilities are. It's not necessarily the nitty-gritty. Title 10 goes into what we do in our everyday practice a lot more in detail, okay? There are times in law where it becomes redundant in definition, and we will skip those. So we're going to do Title 13 first. We're going to talk about some definitions. We're going to do that first. We're going to talk about limiting the board. Spend a little time on what their powers and duties are. Who are these people? We're going to talk about good faith exemption and how that protects us as clinicians to keep us from people being able to sue us for no reason or without intention. And then licensure requirements and qualifications of us as PT and PTA. Keep in mind, the board only licenses PTs and PTAs. That's it. So techs don't have a license. There is no license for them to protect. They work under someone else, be it yours or the PT. Okay? So the Board of Maryland cares nothing about anybody else but a PT or a PTA. That's it. Okay? Is that clear? So our board only cares about the PT and the PTA. Right. So you should be on the top of your page that says Title 13 physical therapist, subtitle definition. I'm going to start at 13-101. If you have a highlighter, I'll put the pen down, pick your highlighter up. I'm going to tell you what to highlight. And just ride with it. All right. Board means the board, the state board of physical therapy. Okay. So what we sometimes will hear the board of PT examiners. You'll hear the Maryland Board of Physical Therapy. They're all the same people. Okay. It's like ambulation, gait, walking. Just a different term. Okay. So State Board of Physical Therapy is the same as the Board of PT examiners, same as the Maryland Board of Physical Therapy. Just a different term. Okay. Right up on Patterson Avenue, not too far from here. You will be doing a field trip there in about, I'm going to come out. Okay. So this is just going to go with you. License. License means a license issued by the board to practice physical therapy or limited physical therapy. Licensed physical therapist. Licensed physical therapist means a licensed physical therapist who is licensed by the board to practice physical therapy. Licensed physical therapist assistant means a licensed physical therapist assistant is a physical therapist assistant who is licensed by the board to practice physical therapy. Physical therapist means an individual licensed by the State Board of PT examiners who practices physical therapy and who has passed the national licensing exam. Okay? So there's a difference in definition. So physical therapist has passed the national licensing exam administered or accepted by the board. Now, our national licensing exam is no longer administered by our board. It's administered by the Federation of Physical Therapy Educators. So write that down. I will. So our exam is now administered by the Federation of Physical Therapy exam. So they bought our exam about 5 years ago. One, to continue with the integrity of the exam, to make sure that people who pass that exam had that baseline foundational knowledge required to keep a patient safe. So they took the PT people out of it. So we don't own our test anymore. It's also online now. So you'll take it online. Federation of PT Examiners. It is set to fail 1 in 5. So that means a fifth of this class will fail that exam, unless you're prepared. Okay? So it is set to fail 1 in 5. All right. Physical therapist assistant means an individual licensed by the state board of physical therapy examiners who practices limited physical therapy and who has passed the National Physical Therapy Licensing Exam administered or accepted by the board. Practice limited physical therapy means the practice of the health specialty concerned with the prevention of disabilities in patients or clients and the physical rehabilitation of patients or clients with a congenital or acquired disability. That sounds familiar to me. Anybody else heard that before? Something similar? Yeah, habilitation and rehabilitation, right out of our lecture. Okay, so that's what we do. We either rehab people or we habilitate those who never had this skill. Yes.
G, you said that the Federation of PT Examiners, should that apply for both F and G?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Because the board no longer owns the exam. Okay? Practices limited to physical therapy include taking and documenting measurements. So what does that ring about? Going. We're going to do vital signs. We'll be doing postural assessments, all of those kinds of tasks. So we can take them and we can do the measurement. Let's read further. Administering treatment with therapeutic exercise, we've done that, right? Therapeutic massage, we just did that. Mechanical devices, what would that be? Right. We're also going to do some ultrasound, some of those. Therapeutic agent, what's a therapeutic agent? OPAD, acid. They use the physical, chemical, and other properties of air, water, electricity, sound, or radiant energy. Okay, so those are all of our interventions. Practice limited physical therapy does not include interpreting those measurements. And some of you are struggling with that in your assessment. So remember, your opinion is an assessment. We only say what it is. Okay? So if we took a bony measurement and the person only had 110 degrees of shoulder flexion, we're just going to write shoulder flexion is 0 to 110. We're not going to write shoulder flexion is limited because that's interpreting the number. Does that make sense? So that's why I keep zinging you guys on that, because it's illegal for you to write it that way. Something that simple. Now, a physical therapist is going to say it's limited because they know and we know that 110 is how many degrees away from normal? 70. So normal is what?
180.
180. So I have to be able to look at that when I'm doing that work. So I can't write it's limited, but I can write what it is. Okay? That's why your assessment always has to come from the SME. It does not include planning treatment programs. What do I mean by that? Because don't we plan our sessions? When we tell you guys you got to treat, don't you plan it out? So we're talking about the plan of care. We're talking about the frequency, what modalities they're going to use, what the goals are, the plan of care, the program, not the session. We plan our sessions based on what the goals are, but we don't plan the treatment plan of care. So that's what that's talking about. Okay? It says that we can't use x-rays, radioactive substances. What might that be? Radioactive substances. What might that be? MRI, radioactive substances. Remember we can't have metal until we go to test. Or electricity for cauterization or surgery. What is that? Anybody know what that means? lasers, do they go in and laser to cauterize skin or open the skin? We don't do that. Right? When we get to wound care, we only do visual debridement. We don't do sharp, deep debridement. We don't tear away skin that's not bleeding. Good. All right. We're going to skip that page for a minute, and we'll come back to those. Practice physical therapy. Practice physical therapy means to practice the health specialty concerned with the prevention of disabilities in patients or clients, and the physical rehabilitation of patients or clients with a congenital or acquired disability. That's the same, right? Any difference there from PT or PTA? No, it's the same. Practice physical therapy includes performing an evaluation of the physical therapy needs of patients or clients. What's that about? What's that about?
Initial evaluation.
What does it entail? Got your history. We got your test and measurement. We need a hospice, right? You got to look at the past level of function, compare it to the current level of function, and come up with what? Diagnosis and goals. You got to know where we're going. Okay, that's it out. Performing and interpreting tests and measurements of neuromuscular and musculoskeletal function to aid in treatment. So they're going to say it's limited. They're going to say the balance is fair. Okay? Planning treatment programs that are based on test findings and administering treatment with therapeutic exercise that include massage, mechanical devices, or therapeutic agents that use physical, chemical, and other properties, air, water, electricity, sound, or radiant energy. Sound familiar? Yeah. So when you look at the treatment component of what we do, there is no difference. Okay? So when you look at PT and PTA, once that evaluation is signed, there is no intervention that they do that we cannot do. It is identical. Okay? In some professions, like with nursing, there are medicines that a nurse can give that a LPN can't give. We don't have those restrictions. When it comes to the treatment part of what we do, it is identical. There's nothing excluded from what they do and what we do. What the exclusion piece comes from is your own competency. You have to be competent in those skills. So if I said to Susan, I need you to do joint mobilization on my shoulder, would you do it? You would? You know how to do it? Have you ever done it before? Well, then please don't do it with me. But if you've never done it before, are you confident to do it? So then your answer would be, I've never done that before. Not, okay, I'll do it. Because your license is on the line. So if you do an intervention that you've never been trained in, you're breaking the law. If you've done it before, if I said you need you do a hot pack and massage for me, you could do that because you've been trained, and at least with hot pack you've shown competency because you've done a practice. So you've shown that you have some experience with that. But if I ask you to do something you haven't been trained on, your answer legally has to be, I don't know that. I can't do that. So that's the only difference in intervention is the experience and competence. Okay? But there's nothing off the table. Good. Practicing physical therapy does not include, they don't take x-rays. So I want you next to x-ray, put taking the x-ray. However, the law hasn't caught up with the practice in this one. So when we move from masters of PT to doctors of PT, those therapists who have a DPT have taken an x-ray interpretation course. So now, physical therapists who are DPT, which is Doctor of Physical Therapy, are allowed to read an x-ray. If you are a master's or bachelor's level PT, you're not allowed to do that. So the exception for x-ray is if you're a DPT, because that is now part of the curriculum. And the DPT is only about 6 years old. So anyone who was licensed prior to that would have either had to go to continuing ed to get their doctorate, or they would be master's level. There are actually bachelor levels. My director is a bachelor level PT, smartest one I know. So just having a DPT doesn't mean you have all the knowledge. It just means you've been out a little less than everybody else. So those haven't been around that long. Okay? So the exception to that is DPT. All right. Radioactive substances, no exception. Electricity for cauterization or surgery, no exception. Okay? So let's look at, you have this slide. So flip back one page. I'm going to put mine up here. I put them above each other so you can look at them on the same page. Just so you can see and compare. when we look at the PT, only the bowls are the exception from the PTA. Okay? So performing the eval, we don't do it. Okay? Performing the test and measures, we don't interpret them. We can perform them, we don't interpret them. We can take them and document them, we don't interpret them. That's the difference there, the interpretation word. And then we don't do the planning of a plan of care based on those tests. Okay? So if someone has a strength deficit, there's going to be a goal to increase that strength written by a teacher. And if you look, I shifted that utilization of X-ray up because there's an exception now. It's not an exclusion. So what did I say the exception was?
DPT.
Good. But these stay the same. Okay? Now, if you look on your sheet, you have this one as well, and this is up. And again, the bowls are the differences between the two. Okay? So we take and document the measurements as opposed to performing and interpreting them. So that's the difference. And for us, we can interpret no plan. So what was up here for PT comes down here for us. So when you're looking at that page, you get to see them together to look at that comparison. But when you think about treatment, it's exactly the same. So what's the exception to treatment? What's the exception to treatment? Yes. What's your exception to treatment?
Your experience?
Thank you. Your own competency. So if you're not competent, by law, you have to say, I don't know how to do it, or I don't feel comfortable doing it. Even though you're legally allowed to do it, you have to know that you're competent and be able to show that competence. And for us, you show it through your practice in your test. You had a question? So, did I not put it down? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this should be down here, I'm sorry. That is not included. Thank you for picking that up. X-ray for us is always no. So that should be down there. Thank you for catching it. You had a question? So move the X-ray under do not for us. It should be do not. So that's a mistake. Thanks for catching it. It does not. Okay, good. All right, let's go back to definitions. I feel like I want to move a slide. Let me move the slide. All right. Let's go through definitions. So we have our permanent license, right? And we also have, it says here, restricted license. Restricted license means a license issued by the board to practice physical therapy. You're going to take some notes after you highlight these. And get where I'm going to be. And then it says temporary license. The temporary license means a license issued by the board to practice physical therapy or limited physical therapy. So let's talk about those. All right. So take some notes. So the license to practice is what you will get after you pass the board exam and you pass your law exam. In Maryland, you have to pass the law with a 90 or better in order to get your license. That is why I have the same requirement for this course. Okay? So, your permanent license expires every 2 years and issued the same number. For example, pay attention to me up here for a second. Right. My number is A2225. Okay? My license will expire every 2 years no matter what. Okay? So, as of May 31st of every year, half of the profession will expire. Okay? Now, let me tell you how they figure this out. I didn't get to pick this number. What this means is the A signifies assistant. 225th PTA to be licensed in the state of Maryland. So I don't get the call and say, can I have number 7453? No. You get the next one. So they're done in order. Okay? So I was number 2,225. Okay? Someone in my class was maybe 2,226, or maybe someone from another program got in between. It doesn't matter. It's how your application gets processed. Okay? My license number ends in a 5. Okay? We're currently in year, okay, 19. Ooh, Jesus. Yeah. Woo! I'm about to go back, y'all. All right. So we're in 2015. Because my license number ended in an odd number, I will expire every odd year. Take some notes, guys. We have a quiz next week. Okay? So because my license number ends in 5, I will expire every odd year. So when did my license expire? This year. So I just got a new license this year because it ends in 5. It's 2015, which is an odd number. So I expired May 31st of 2015. Okay? So I got my new license. That's why I'm still working. So my new license will run from 6/01 of 2015 through 5/31 of 2017. I got the same number. It doesn't change. Make sense? Okay? So this is my permanent license. So unless I don't renew my license, or I violate the law in some way, they take my license, this will be my number no matter what. Okay? Okay? Now, if my license number was, when would my license expire?
2016.
2016. Good. So if it ends in an odd number, it expires on the odd year. If it ends in an even number, it expires on the even year. Everybody expires May 31st. Okay? So I have a little under 2 years to practice before I need to renew again. Yeah.
I was going to ask if the month expires in September 9th.
Nope, it's always, everybody, no matter what, May 31st. Everybody. Everybody expires May 31st. Period. Doesn't matter what either or are. Every May 31st. Somebody, one half is going to expire. So 2015, everybody who had an odd number expired May 31st. And they should have done their application and got their new one. Next year, my license will be 5. But if yours ended in a 6, you will expire on May 31st. Everybody's May 31st. Your year depends on the last number of your number. Odd number on the odd year, even number on the even year. Okay.
Did you reapply your license with that other test?
No, thank God. Pass it once, you're good. As long as you don't act a fool, you're good. Yeah. Amen. Yeah. That's the expiration date. Correct. And even an odd is the last one. Correct. Okay. It also talks about, we talked about a temporary license. Now, prior to, it's not been that long, but prior to maybe 8 years ago, when you graduated, so I'll say it like this. When I graduated from school, I got a temporary license. So I put in my application, and I got a nice little license in the mail that allowed me to work for 90 days while I studied for the test. Okay? So I literally started working as a PTA before I took the test. Because I got my license, so I could practice. I had temporary. About 8 years ago, the board started to look at what were the issues, who was getting reprimanded, where were the problems, and what they found was when the Federation bought the test and changed the test, people were failing it at crazy numbers. And all the schools were in a tizzy like, what is happening? Why are people failing? Well, when they bought and owned our test now, they changed how those questions were done. So when you struggle with why we ask them this way, it's because this is how they ask them. Okay? They decided that in order to have an integrity to the exam, it should fail people. If everyone passes it, it's not good enough. So the test was put in to fail 1 in 5, and it failed 1 in 3 the first year. Schools were scrambling like, what is happening right now? Okay? The board said, hold up. We're to protect the public. We don't care if they fail. They have a professional organization called the APTA. We are a public service board. We can't have people treating patients who are failing this test. That's not safe. So they did away with the temporary license for people who graduate in the U.S. So there is no treatment without a license anymore if you've graduated from the school in this country. Okay? So you no longer have a temporary. But what they determined was there are people who come from foreign trained education who need to show that the education is competent to what we do here. And is it fair to make them start over if they can prove competency? So they kept the temporary license for this issue. So the only people who will get a temporary now is if you're a foreign trained physical therapist. And we're going to get into the requirements for the foreign trained. But if you were trained in Nigeria as a PT, and you come to the United States, they look at your credentials, they look at your years of experience, and the board, along with a panel, will decide, do you need to do a preceptorship? A preceptorship is equivalent to your clinical. Write it down. Okay? So a preceptorship is a way for that foreign trained therapist to demonstrate competency in ethics, in law, in patient care, in treatment planning, and all of those things. So it's almost like a supervised clinical. The difference is in a preceptorship, they also get paid. You will not get paid. Sorry. Okay? Now, it lasts for 90 days, exception, unless the preceptorship is extended. So let's say we have our foreign trained therapist who comes into the U.S., but they have a family, and they can't do the preceptorship full time. They can only do it part time. Between them and their preceptor, who's a PT, okay, we can extend it with the board. But ultimately, it starts off with those 90 days. Okay? That's what a temporary license is. Only good, foreign trained, 90 days unless you need to extend it for the preceptorship. Preceptorship, same as your clinical, but they're paid. Clear? Good. Now, last license that the PT board will do is what we call a restricted license. Right? You write it next to those definitions if you want. So the restricted license is used for a PT or PTA who lives in a different state, who comes to Maryland to teach a hands-on course where actual patients are being used. Okay? Now, an example of that is if we have a PT from Georgia who comes to Maryland to teach a massage course for patients with cerebral palsy, and they have people, actual patients, as their demo. They need what they call a restricted license because it allows them to practice PT while they're here. Does that make sense? Okay? Now, if they're teaching a course on documentation, they don't need a restricted license because they're not touching people. So it's only when they're treating hands-on. Okay? This license will start the day of the course and end the last day of the course. And you cannot renew it. Okay? So it's restricted for a hands-on course required by a therapist outside of Maryland coming into Maryland to treat people. And it's only good for the duration of the course. So if it's a one-day course, it's a one-day license. If it's a 3-day course, it's a 3-day license. Okay? Now, if I'm in Maryland, I'm actually licensed in Maryland, and I decide I want to teach a course on gait training, and I pull in a bunch of people, patients, to come in. Do I need a restricted license?
No.
Why?
You
I already have a license to practice. Good. Okay? So those are the three. Questions about license? Good. All right, let's go back to our paper. Yeah. We're not talking about this. now until we're done, we're talking about Maryland law because we're practicing in Maryland. You go to Jersey, you got to deal with Jersey. It's different state to state. I'm teaching you Maryland law. Yes.
For one reason that the license gets revoked, is there any way to get it
We're going to
back?
talk about revolt when we get to grounds to reprimand.
All right.
Okay. All right, let's go back to our long list. So under scope of title, which is 13-102, you just flip back. It says, this title does not limit the rights of, does not limit the rights of an individual to practice a health occupation that the individual is authorized to practice under this article. Just ride with me. Are you there?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. 102-13.
Page 2.
On page 2. I'm at 13-102.
Scope of.
I'm just reading it and then I'm going to interpret it. Okay? All right. So it says an individual. So in other words, this board has no jurisdiction over an individual to practice a health occupation that individual is authorized to practice under this article. I'll explain. A chiropractor to practice physical therapy if the chiropractor is authorized to practice physical therapy under Title III of this section. I'll explain what Title III is. An individual to provide non-medical services while practicing cosmetology or operating in a health club or a health club to advertise themselves as a health club. So what that means, number one, an individual to practice in health occupation that they are legally allowed to practice. We're talking about OT. Because a lot of what we do will overlap with what they do. Okay? So we do transfers to and from the bed. They do transfers to and from the bed. We do transfers from the toilet to the tub. They do transfers from the toilet to the tub. We teach a patient how to dress as a Hemi. They teach a patient how to dress as a Hemi. So there are parts of what we do that overlap with what they do. Our board has no jurisdiction over OT. That's what that means. Am I clear on that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 2, under chiropractor, the chiropractor license about maybe 15, 18 years ago added a PT component. A lot of people confuse chiropractors and physical therapy. A lot of patients weren't clear on who does what. So the chiropractors wanted to come under the physical therapy board. PT was like, no way, no thank you. We're okay. We're going to stay just us. We don't want other people. So the chiropractor was like, well, wait a minute. There are parts of what you do that we should be able to do because it overlaps. So what the PT and chiropractic board got together and decided was there is a test piece of the chiropractic board that is pulled out that if they pass that section, they can actually do physical therapy intervention. But they have to have taken and passed that course. Does that make sense? Because there, again, is some overlap there. However, if a patient goes to a chiropractor and has a grievance, they cannot come to the PT board. There is a chiropractor board. So our board has no jurisdiction over chiropractic. Back in 1999, that was a while ago, there was a shortage of PT jobs. So there were people who left PT at PTAs and went to work for chiropractors because they were like, hey, we'll take it. You ain't got no job. You want a job? I'll take you. Why? Because they knew, one, these people had passed the national exam. 2, they had the ability to treat well. So they were hiring them. Our board said to them, you know what? Go ahead. You can work for a chiropractor. You can't put PTA. Because by law, you need a PT. So chiropractors were hiring PTAs as chiropractor assistants because their board allows them to in-house train. But the difference was they were paying PTAs a higher rate because they were skilled at a higher level. Does that make sense? So you can work as a chiropractor assistant with a chiropractor. You have to drop your credentials. You cannot tell people you're a PTA unless you're working under and with a PT. Is that clear? Yeah. Okay. So that's where the chiropractor comes in. Now, it talks about non-medical services. So again, in cosmetology, you go in, you get a little facial, there's massage. Sometimes they'll do work on your TMJ, but it's not a medical thing. You can go to About Faces and get a nice little back massage for relaxation. I will tell you that is probably the most unrepresented we are. We are not massage therapists. That is not what we do. The reason why we do massage is to prepare the body to work. You need to know what muscle you're touching. You need to know how that muscle contracts, what that muscle does. And it is a prep for what we do. We are not massage therapists. And the large majority of PT PTs are highly offended when someone says, oh, well, can I get a massage? Can you PT, can I get a massage? Sure you can. Go to About Faces or over there to Renaissance. All those spas will give you a massage. It's not what we do. Okay? So putting on Coltrane and doing massaging your patient is going to get you fired and also lose your license. That's not what we do. So don't get it confused. Okay? We don't do it to make them feel good. We do it to relax that muscle and prepare it to work. Okay? Also, when you think about trainers, I wear a double hat. I am a certified trainer. I don't treat patients. I treat clients. It's different. Okay? So there's a different scope of practice between what a trainer does and what we do in physical therapy. The reason you know that is because insurance don't pay for trainers. Why? Because they don't have the medical piece. And I can say that without offending anyone because I am one. There are certain things we do know. But you can't take a trainer and put him in the ICU. I guarantee you. But you can put a PT in there every time in a PTA. So what the board says is if you go to the mat and you get injured by a personal trainer, don't call us. They're not our people. We don't control that. Nothing to do with the PT board. But if that person's a PTA and they advertise themselves to you as a PTA, then there's a problem. Now, for those of us who are dual licensed, but there are some people who are PTs and RNs. There are PTs and OTs. I have a friend who's a PT and an OT. It's crazy stuff. Like, what meeting are you at and which one are you at? You have to be sure. So when we do our introduction, when I'm working with someone from a trainer perspective, I'm very clear that this is not physical therapy. They actually have to sign a form with me that says, I was advised that this is not physical therapy. Because I don't want people to think that it is, and I'm misrepresenting what I'm doing. So you have to, from a legal standpoint, be very clear about your intention and who you are when you wear multiple hats. Because if someone says, oh, well, she told me it was PT, and I don't have a piece of paper that says I did not tell them that, they could sue me and say, well, she was practicing physical therapy without a PT. And that's not what I'm doing. But in strengthening someone as a trainer, it's very close. The lines are very clear. You have to protect the differences if you look at you as a trainer. There's a big difference. I didn't even know what time, but if you want to talk later, we can. There's a big difference. And I didn't even, I was a PTA first, so dialing down my brain to be a trainer was very hard for me. My mentor was like, you got to stop it. You can't do that. It's illegal. So we actually have more control as PTA than we do as a trainer. But it's different. Yeah.
You said the chiropractor gets tested on a portion of
there's a portion of their exam that is administered by our federation. Most chiropractors don't even take it because they don't pass it. But there are some who opt to do that. And if they do and pass it, then they can say that they practice PT.
Okay.
Otherwise, they have to hire a physical therapist to advertise physical therapy. Same thing with, I'm trying to think of the name of the gym. It's in the Y. There's a PT practice inside of the YMCA on 33rd. There's a PTA practice that's inside of there. And their patients use the same equipment, but they have to be very clear that they have physical therapists within that building, that they are not training for the Y. So you have to be very clear about who you are and what you're doing. It's just like for those of you who are working as a tech, you have to be very clear that you're a tech and that you're not a clinician. Okay? All right, we're clear on that scope. All right. Board established, and as this is that there is a board of state physical therapy examiners. What you need to understand is our board is a public safety board. Okay? Our board is a public safety board. What that means is they don't work for us as PT and PTA. They do not. They work for the public. And their job is to ensure that we are ethical, professional, and competent to practice PT in a safe manner for the public. The person or team of people who protect you is the APTA. So when they write the laws, they don't write them to make it easy for us. They write it in the best interest of the patient. So that's why a lot of times therapists are like, oh, come on, are you serious? It's not about what's best for you or what's more inconvenient for us. It's about what's safe for the patient. Okay? So we're clear on that. So let's talk membership. So membership of the board, composition. So I'm at 13.202 at the very, very bottom. Last little section there. composition means how it's the makeup of what it is. Appointment of members. The board consists of 8 members. 2 of the board members of the 8 board members. Oh my, that's 5, you should be on that page 3. 5 shall be licensed physical therapists, of which a minimum of 4 shall be engaged primarily in clinical practice of physical therapy in this state. I'm going to explain that to you in a second. Okay? And 1 shall be a licensed physical therapist assistant practicing physical therapy in this state. And 2 shall be consumer members. Okay? So we have 5 PTAs, 5 PTs, 8 members. 5 PTs, 1 PTA, 2 consumer members. Now, it says of these 5, 4 have to be primarily clinical. Let me explain what that means. So that means that 4 of these people have to work more in the clinic than anywhere else. Okay? So that would mean Ms. Deborah could not be on the board at the same time as another educator because her primary job is an educator. She may work and treat patients per diem, but that's not her primary job. Okay? So 4 of these 5 people have to work full-time or the majority of their time treating patients. Why? Because it's about patient care. So if we had 5 researchers on the board, they don't know what happens every day, all day in the clinic. So 4 of these people have to be clinic therapists for treating patients every day. Now, 1 of the 5 could be an educator. They could be in research. They could be in public safety. They could be in quality assurance. They don't have to treat every day. But of those 5, 4 have to treat patients. Okay? Now, let's talk about breaking down each one of their, how we get to them. So under 3, the governor shall appoint the licensed physical therapist member and the licensed physical therapist assistant member with the advice of the secretary from a list of names of qualified individuals submitted to the secretary and governor by the American Physical Therapy Association of Maryland. The number of names on the list shall be at least 3 times the number of vacancies. What that means is that in order for these 6 people these 6 people have to come from the APTA of Maryland, not somewhere else. Okay? So keep in mind, APTA has a national and a local membership. You have to belong to both. Okay? So the APTA of Maryland is going to submit names to the board and say, oh, you got a vacancy? Here's some people. Now, Ms. Sonia, do you have to be a member of the APTA? Because I hear it's expensive. No, you do not. You have to then petition yourself to the APTA. So I can say, I'm currently not a member, but I'd like to be considered and send my name to the APTA to get on that list. I cannot send my name to the board. They're not going to take it. Okay? So if you have an interest to be on the board, they will prefer you be an APTA member, but you don't have to. So we're going to talk about how the board looks at how we get back to the profession. Because that's important. Okay. So these 6 people are going to come from the APTA. Now, let's say, here's where we start to do a little math. I saw those interviews about the math. So, let's say we have 1 PT vacancy and 1 PTA vacancy. How many names do we need?
4.
6.
Oh, 3 times, yeah.
6.
3 for PT, 3 for PT, 3 for PTA.
We need 3 here for PT, and we need 3 here for PTA. So you got, y'all with 6 would have got half. Because a PTA can't fill this seat, and a PT can't fill this. here, they said that y'all would have said them and I would have kept going. Alright, so there needs to be 3 times the number of vacancies. Right? So if we have 1 PTC and 1 PTA seat, we need 3 PTs on the list, minimum. And we need 3 PTAs on the list, minimum. Because a PTA cannot fill this PTC. So having 6 on the list and 4 of them being PTAs is not the requirement. It has to be 3. Okay? And vice versa. A PT can't fill this. So you need 3 of these. Okay? Let's try it a different way. Okay? Let's say we have 2 seats for PT and 1 for PTA. How many names do we need? 6 PTs. Right? Let's say we have no. Yeah. 3 PTs, 1 consumer member. How many do we need?
9.
3 consumer members.
Make sense now? Okay. 3 over here. Alright, now let's talk about where those consumer members come from. The consumer members wouldn't come from the HCA, right? Because they don't know anything about PT. The purpose of your consumer members is that they not be partial to physical therapy. You need people who are going to speak for the party. Let's see what we're going to talk about their qualifications. Under 4, the governor shall appoint the consumer members with the advice of the secretary and the advice and consent of the Senate. So most professions, pretty much all of them have a board. And what people do, my uncle is one of them. He must sit on like 4 different boards in the state of Maryland. Wow, because you know what to do. You kind like Hopkins, where he just goes to on board and goes to meetings all day and walks down that street and he just sees time. So there you go. So what they do is those people petition and apply to the Senate to sit on these seats. You can go on the website to see who has a vacancy, and you get on there. And you speak for the public. So that's what they do. So that's where they get these people. Huh? All right. Now let's talk about qualifications. Qualifications of licensed physical therapist members. Each licensed physical therapist member should have at least 5 years experience in physical therapy administration, education, practice, or research immediately before appointment. So this can't be someone who's retired, who hasn't practiced in 10 years, because we're a research-based practice and things change. So they need to be current. Okay? Shall be engaged in a profession of physical therapy in the state. What they mean by that is that you're actively participating in the profession. And that's why they go to this team to get those names. Because if you're a member of the APTA, you're involved in what's going on, you're up to date on the changes, and you're kind of keeping up with the profession. Okay. And again, I don't force it down your throat, but as a member, I understand the importance of being at the table. Yes.
You're saying 1 and 2 in general means that whoever the physical therapist must be current
Current?
and research-based. What do you do with research-based?
No. It says that they have to have experience in any of those. Administration, so they could be a director of a department or whatever. Education, like we are here. Practice, which is treating patients, or research. But we know that 4 have to be what?
Clinical.
Well, one of these could be an administrator, one of them could be a researcher, or anything. But 4 have to be clinical. Doesn't mean they can't be full-time in the clinic and do part-time as a research person, but they have to be primarily in the clinic. Okay? That makes sense now? Good. All right. Now, qualifications of the licensed physical therapist assistant member. Each licensed physical therapist member shall have at least 5 years of experience in limited physical therapy and shall be engaged in the profession of limited physical therapy in this state. So, new grads cannot sit on the board. Why?
Lack of experience.
You haven't done anything yet. You can have all the opinions you want, but you haven't done anything yet. So you got to be out there. You can go season on it. Then you can be on the board. Okay? Good. Qualifications of consumer members in general. Each consumer member of the board shall be a member of the general public. Okay? May not be or ever have been a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant or in training to become a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant. So that knocks out the whole class. So whether you graduate or not, you've been in training at this point. So none of you could be a consumer member anymore because you have too much knowledge about people. Okay? May not have a household member who is a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant or in training to become a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant. That knocks out your house. May not participate or ever have participated in a commercial or professional field related to physical therapy. Things like that are like equipment vendors, prosthetists, orthotists, people who work with us closely. Why? They have more than general knowledge of physical therapy. May not have a household member who participates or ever has participated in a commercial or professional field related to physical therapy. And may not have had within 2 years, so kind of started out as a little different, so it pops off the page. Within 2 years before appointment, a substantial financial interest in a person regulated by the board. So if you have a business partner, let's say you own a practice, and your partner, your financial person is invested in your business. If it's within 2 years, they then cannot be a part of the board. Because they have a financial interest in the rules and regulations that are used. Okay? Under restrictions, while a member of the board, a consumer member may not have a substantial financial interest in a person regulated by the board. So once they get on the board, they cannot then go into business with someone who's in. Okay? They have to stay impartial. Under oath, before taking office, each appointee to the board will take the oath required of the Constitution, so they are literally raise your hand sworn in. Okay? Tenure under vacancy. A term for members is 4 years. Again, this is one of those questions that will catch you. Okay? So a term is 4 years. Okay? Now, it says the term of members are staggered as required by the terms provided for members of the board. At the end of a term, a member continues to serve until a successor is appointed and qualified. I'm going to finish this and then I'll show you what it means. A member who is appointed after a term has begun serves only the rest of the term and until a successor is appointed and qualified. To the extent practicable, the governor shall fill any vacancy on the board within 60 days of the date of vacancy. So they try to fill it within 2 months. Most of the time it's filled before the person leaves. So again, if someone dies, you can't pop the body out. And then lastly, a member may not serve more than 2 consecutive full terms. Okay, so let's go back to this slide. Then we'll break this down. So let's look at composition. This is just a nice way for you to write this out for yourself. So that it takes up a little less paper in your head. So all I did was take what's in your book and tear it down a little bit. Right? So again, 5 PTs in Maryland. 4 must be primarily in the clinic. 5 years of experience, must be active. 1 PTA, same level of experience, must be active. The active means that they are part of the APTA, but it is not required. Okay? So let's talk about this tenure. You do remember, general public, think your PTA, you think your PTA, nobody can get you. It's in your book.
The chart that you...
It's in your book verbatim. All right, let's talk about term. So a term is 4 years. And I said you can only do how many terms?
2 consecutive.
2. When you do 2 terms, it's called a tenure. Okay? because it's 2 consecutive terms. Now, it said something about the person got to stay, the person can't go. Remember that part? Let me tell you what that means. So let's say that Jason is about to come off the board. Okay? So Jason served his 4 years. He decided, I'm not going to go again. It's too much work. I can't do this. I got a life. So I'm only going to do 1 term, guys. I don't want to come back. He gives notice. Okay? His last day was, let's say, June 30th. Okay? So he should have left June 30th. However, he's still there. Okay? His new person is going to come October 30th. Okay? So, he's going to serve an additional 4 months. So by the time Jason leaves, he will have served 4 years and 4 months. Okay? G is his replacement. When G starts in October, he's only going to serve 3 years and 8 months of his first term. So his term doesn't start when he's 6. His term starts when that seat was supposed to expire. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, let's say G does his first 3 years and 8 months. He decides to run again. How long is his tenure?
7 years, 8 months.
Make sense? Now, let me explain what staggered means. So I said the board was staggered. Okay? So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll make Raymond number 8. So these 8 people are the board. Right here. Okay? Now, let's say that Dina C, she just started a couple months ago. You've been there for 2 years. You've been there 6 years. Raymond, you've been there 5.5. Tyler, you've been there 3. You've been there 2. Your seat's expiring. I'm kicking you off already. And you expired in the end of the year. Okay? The reason is because the work of the board never stops. So if all 8 people left at the same time, we start off with a whole new set of 8 people. It's like starting all over again. By allowing it to stagger, when G leaves, these 7 people will bring this person up to speed. Okay? When Abina leaves, these 7 people will bring her up to speed. So that everybody doesn't get up and go at the same time. That's what they mean by stagger. Okay? So the work keeps going. Make sense? Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Alright? So, just to review, term, 4 years. No member shall serve more than 2. 2 full terms is a term. Members are appointed after the start of the term. Will only serve what's left. So when G comes on, he doesn't get his whole 4 years because it took him 4 months to find him. Right? So he's going to serve his 3 years and 8 months. And then, as much as possible, that seat is usually filled, honestly, before the person leaves, so they know ahead of time. But if not, they have about a 60-day window. Now, when does that really play out? If someone gets kicked off the board, which happens, because they act out, or if someone passes away. Because again, we can't talk about it, we got to burn. Okay? Make sense on tenure? All right, so let's talk about read down. Okay, so we talked about that. Under removal, the governor may remove a member for incompetence or misconduct. So, if we have somebody on the board who's disruptive, who's not a team player, who gets in fights with everybody, doesn't show up to the meetings, they can be removed. Okay? So, upon recommendation of the secretary, the governor may remove a member whom the secretary finds has been absent from 2 consecutive board meetings without an adequate reason. So what that means is that if you miss 2 meetings back to back and you just answer, I just couldn't make it, then they're going to look at, you're not working with us. We only meet so often, you're behind. It's almost like this class. You miss 2 classes, you're in trouble. So they can ask that you be removed. So that's when this 60-day piece really does come into play, because the seat is good and empty. Okay? So, misconduct can get you kicked off the board, or missing 2 meetings without adequate reason. Now, of course, if you have an emergency and you talk to them, they understand that. If you just don't come, I went to play golf. That's a problem. Okay? Good. Under officers, for election of chairman, from among its members, I'm in 13203, the board annually elects a chairperson and a vice chair. What does annually mean?
Yearly.
Every year. So remember, term and tenure has nothing to do with these two people. They are every year. We're one of the few boards in the country that allows the PTA to be chair. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud. Come on. Why can't we be chair? So there are actually, the last PTA chair is a graduate of our program. The current PTA member is also a graduate of PTA. Under election and duties, the board shall determine the manner of the election of the chairman and vice chair, and the duties of the chairman and vice chair. So what that means is, they may say, let's do a show of hands, let's put a name in a basket. They'll determine how they vote. But only those 8 people, these 8 people, will pick their chair. Okay? So nobody else has any say over who that chairperson is. It's these 8 people. Not the governor, not the secretary, nobody else. These 8 will elect that person every year. Okay? Under board executive director, write down Carlton. So Commissioner Carlton, he's actually an attorney. He knows nothing about it. He's our current executive director of the board. First name is sitting my mind right now. Last name is Carlton. I met him when he came on board. I used to do a lot more. I can't do it now. I used to do a lot of PTA investigations for the board. It takes a lot of work. It seems like it's not a big deal, but it is. And so I worked a lot with Ann Kaminsky. Ann Kaminsky was the executive director for a very long time, before Mr. Carlton came on board. But we now have a gentleman who's a lawyer and was a public relations specialist. He was not a PCC. So the executive director does not have to be in the practice of care. That's a good thing to know. Appointment. The board shall appoint a board executive director who serves at the pleasure of the board. So people, again, apply for this job. This is a paid job. The executive director is there like a full-time job. Board members come to the meetings and investigations, but they have full-time jobs, as we saw. Before, it had to be primarily in clinic. Okay? Powers and duties of the executive director is the executive director of the board and has the powers and duties assigned by the board. Most often, the powers and duties is to make sure that all the board members are meeting their requirements, doing what they need to do, that licensure things are done on time. They meet a lot with the APTA for the board as the board representative. And so the board kind of dictates that job, but they oversee the members of the board. So that's their job. They don't serve a tenure. So they're there until they resign or are fired. So this 4 and 8 doesn't apply to them either. Okay, so your executive director is there until they resign or are terminated. All right. So let's talk about read down. All right. So under quorum, a quorum or meeting compensation under that 13.5. Quorum, a majority of full authorized members of the board is a quorum to do business. Okay. Meetings. The board shall determine the time and place of its meetings are open to the public meetings on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Okay. So our board meets on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Compensation and reimbursement of expenses. Each member of the board is entitled to compensation determined by the board and in accordance with the budget of the board, and reimbursement for expenses at a rate determined by the board. What that means is they're paid a stipend that is approximately the average rate of a clinical, like someone who works in clinic. So if a PTA makes $45 an hour in the clinic, then the board pays them $45 an hour to work at the school. So it's comparable to what they make in the country. So it's not a disservice. Same thing for the PT. And consumer members, I forget how many disciples is that. Where it talks about reimbursement for expenses is like if you have to travel for the board or you go to a meeting and things like that, you get reimbursed for that out of cost. You should not have to pay a service. Okay? Under staff experts and consultants, in accordance with the budget of the board may employ a staff. The staff is like the administrative assistants, the people who log in your applications, who make sure that your license go out on time, who send you your letters if you get in trouble, those kind of things. Experts and consultants to obtain information and advice that relates to physical therapy. So like I said, I would every once in a while do a research with them and review somebody's documentation and write a report. They have investigators who go out to the clinic and observe and see what's happening for those kinds of people. Okay? And then under miscellaneous powers and duties, I'm on page 5. Powers. In addition to the powers set forth elsewhere in the title, the board may adopt rules and regulations to carry out the provision of the title. So everything we're reading is written by previous boards and future boards. So they've changed the law sometimes. Like I said, we used to have a right now, we don't. Because it wasn't feasible for the public. It wasn't safe. Adopt standards and practice and code of ethics for the practice of physical therapy and limited physical therapy. So they tell us how many patients we can see a day, how many notes we have to write a day, how to be professional, how to have ethical treatment. So that is all written again, having done it. And pay in accordance with the state budget any necessary expense that relates to the referral of an allegation violation of the criminal provision of this title. What that means is that if a PT or PTA violates the law to a federal level, beyond the state level, they will pay for that investigation to go further. That happens with things like sexual misconduct, Medicare fraud, insurance fraud, billing for what you didn't do. Those are federal level. Okay, versus you didn't do your documentation. That's the state level. Okay? Under duties, in addition to the duties set forth by the title, the board shall keep a list of names and addresses of each licensed physical therapist and licensed physical therapist assistant. So we, by law, have to update our address whenever we move within 30 days. Failure to do so will give you a fine. Why? Because if someone files a complaint about you, they have to be able to reach you right away and send you a note. You have to give them a change of address. Present evidence of any alleged violation to this title to the state's attorney of the county where the allegation violation occurred. Excuse me. And adopt rules and regulations that govern the use of a physical therapy aid by a licensed physical therapist. So that's the powers and duties of our board. Under State Board of Examiner Fees and Funds, really all I want you to know there is a State Board of Physical Therapy Examiners Fund, and that, if you go down to B, it says the board may set reasonable fees for the issuance and renewal of licenses and its other services. There's a fee schedule in the back. I don't expect you to know what everything costs because they change. But we do pay for our renewal, and we pay for our license. The fees charged shall be set so as to approximate the cost of maintaining the board. Funds to cover the compensation and expenses of the board members shall be generated by fees under this section. Under disposition of funds, the board shall pay all funds collected to the comptroller of the state. The comptroller shall distribute the fees to the State Board of PT Examiners Fund. Under use in nature, the funds shall be used to cover the actual documented direct and indirect costs of fulfilling the statutory and regulatory duties of the board. The fund is a continuing non-lapsing fund of the state finance and procurement article. I'm almost done with this. Any unspent portion of the, fund may not be transferred or reverted to the general fund of the state, but shall remain in the fund to be used for the purpose specified. No other state money may be used to support this board. What that means is that we pay our fees for license renewal. I think somewhere around there, I don't know. But I've never paid the full price, and here's why. Our board cannot make money. They're not in the business of making money. So, as it said, they have to estimate what it costs to run the board every year. So, if they get to budget time and they have a surplus of money, they have to take in less money. Okay? So let's say the board had $500,000, and last year it only cost them $600,000 to run the board. They look at how many licensed people they had, and they have to cut our fee. So then we get a discount. So in other words, you may pay $100 to renew that particular year. Okay? Now, there was a time, it wasn't my year, amen, that there were so many issues going on that the board was in the red. They had so many investigations going on, so many people coming under reprimand that they were in the red. So fees went up. So that's how fluid it is. You may pay, they have a base rate, but it depends on if there is more money or less money. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's kind of dialed based on what the need is. They cannot make more money. Nor can the bus system say, okay, comptroller, the PT board has all this money, can we get money from them? That money can't go to any other state agency. It has to stay with the PT board. Does that make sense? So that's the whole thing. Everything goes in and out of the comptroller's office. Nothing is managed or held at the PT board. So the bottom page, I don't need you to know that. All right, on page 6, I'm at 13207-1 on disclosure of information. If it is determined that disclosure of information contained in a record of the board will serve to protect the public, the board, after an affirmative vote of the majority, may disclose any information contained in the record of the board to any other health occupation licensure board of this state if the information relates to an individual licensed or certified by the other board. So what that means is, if you're an OT and you violate the law, then in your dual license, PT and OT, those boards are going to talk. So now both your licenses are on the line. Or if you're an RN and a PTA, same thing. So that's what that means. The other thing is that you can go online, your assignment is going to be to go on the board this week. I might push it back to the very first. We'll see how it goes. But you can actually put in someone's license number. One of the only times it's going to be too strict by verification. You go in and verify that the person actually does have an open license with no issues. So your license number is a public number, is what that means. So anybody can call the board and say, I want to check on this license number, or they can go on the website and put it in, and it'll tell them if I did anything wrong, when I did it, what I did, what the penalty was. It's out there for everybody. So that's another reason why you want to make sure you don't break the law, because everybody, including me, will see it. And I will call. Personally. And say, no, you didn't. Okay. Number 2, disclose to a physical therapy licensure board of any other state. Again, any information contained in the record of the board, if the information relates to an individual licensed by the board and is based on a final decision of the board, or the information that a licensee has charges pending before the board, and there is no final decision in that matter. So what that means is that if you violate a law, not only do the board have the right to give that information to any agency, that agency is also going to tell the board. If you get a DUI, they're going to know it. And we're going to talk about when you have to tell them stuff. So you have to be mindful of what you do, because you are a public servant. And safety is the number one thing. So if you're out there drinking and driving and you get a DUI, you're not showing them that you're a safe person. So look bad on you. And they will find out. What happened about 4 years ago is they put all the state computers together. So now, the minute they run your license, it dings to the board. Because you're already registered as a board member, as a licensed by the board. So the minute they run you, it dings to the board. Now, it may ding and just say you got stopped and it's no big deal. The board will know what's up. What they're waiting for is to see is your integrity there to call us and tell us. Now, there's nothing, it's nothing. You know, if we get stopped and there's no big deal, you get that. They don't care about that. If you get a DUI, you're now endangering the public. They are a public board. Make sense? Okay, good. Now, going to take a break in a little bit because I know y'all might have to pee. Good faith exemption from civil liability. A person shall have the immunity of liability of the court in judicial proceedings for giving information to the board or otherwise participating in its activities. What that means is, guys, is if you work in a facility, let's say you work in Jack's PT office, and you know that Jack's PT office is breaking the law. You know that they are charging patients more than what the patients are getting. Let's use that as an example. You, as a PTA, when you're licensed, everyone has a right to, has an obligation to report. But once you sign your license, because you get your license in the mail, and you get a little license, you get a little pocket line, you get the wall line, it's about that long, and you have to sign it. Once you sign it, you say, I will follow everything in that book. So everything in that book, I'm going to do it. That means that if you know that this PT place, they're overcharging patients for therapy they didn't get, you're supposed to let them know. Okay? Failure to do that means when they come in and check everybody, they're going to check you. Why didn't you tell them? Did you know? They're going to investigate to find out how much you knew. And if you didn't tell them, you're in trouble. So, what the board says in this instance is, we don't want you to call us right away unless it's something detrimental to a patient. But you need to follow the chain of command. So that means if I work there and I know that we're doing something illegal, my first line is to go to my supervisor and say, I noticed that there were charges that didn't match the treatment sessions. Was that an error? Is there something going on? And I take it to that person. If that person does nothing, if there's another person on the chain going up, I'm supposed to go to that person. That person does nothing, I'm supposed to go to the board. Now, let's say I do that, and it comes up that it was a computer glitch. They weren't intentionally doing it, it was happening, but it was a computer glitch. They can't sue me for going to the board. Because my intention was to do what I said I would do when I signed my license. Now, let's flip it. Let's say I got fired. And I called the board and said, they in there filling on people, and one day I was there, and they knocked this lady down, and they didn't help her get up, and I come up with all this elaborate stuff. And I'm malicious with intent. Then I'm not covered by liability. Okay? So as long as you're reporting to the board with the intention of following the law, you're exempt. They can't sue you. However, if they can show you had malicious intent, and that you knew what you were saying wasn't true, you're not covered. Yes.
If you went to the board and they end up having to shut this place down because of their illegal activity,
they can't sue you.
Are you covered though? Like, is there any
You're
protection for
covered.
you as far as like employment?
You're covered, yes. And this is when I do my disclosure. So, years ago, I went to a PT practice. I shall rename name. So that's good faith exemption. And I'll be honest with you, I resigned by fact. I'm not proud of it. But I did. Here's what happened. It was an outpatient place. They were playing real porn. You know what I mean by real porn? I know what I mean.
No.
Real porn. Like good money.
Oh, others say
real porn. Like, so I was trying, stock up. I had 3 kids in college. So I was like, let me just go, get them 4 hours instead of doing 12 over here. I can do 4 over here. Gravy. So I worked for them for about 3 months. So one day I'm treating a patient. And I saw the patient at 2 o'clock for his back. Okay? Everything was fine. Everything, yeah, treated him, life was good. At 6 o'clock, he came back and saw somebody else for his shoulder. Whole new file, he's suing people, whole new case. So I escalated for that. I said, didn't I see him already? Today? She said, oh yeah, he got 2 different cases. He's got 2 different files. Now, I don't know how he treated his down. Now, granted, shoulder back is, same old thing. I didn't read this thing. They were treating this person, multiple different cases, billing multiple. One was a lawsuit from one place, one was a lawsuit from somewhere else. So I said, I don't think you're supposed to do this, right? Because I saw him today. And, it's a different plan of care. He's got 2 plans of care, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I left. And at this time, I don't know if any of you know Dennis, but Dennis Klinger is a huge name in PT in Maryland. He used to be our director here. He was my mentor. I called him. I said, Clint, got a question. So I told him what happened. He's like, no, that's illegal. You need to call the board to verify, but I know it's legal. So I'm freaking out. So I'm like, oh my God, my name is on this file. going down. I ain't even been out there that long as you've been going down. So I called the board and I said, I just want to know if this is a problem. So she said, well, we don't do it that way. You have to put it in writing, and then when the board meets, they will review it. So I said, okay. But my gut said, this is bad. So what do I do? She said, well, if it was me, I'd quit. Okay. Okay. So it just happened to be pay week. So I waited till Wednesday. My check came in the mail. And I didn't schedule. She called me. She said, you didn't give us your schedule. And I said, oh, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you in a minute. I'm going to call you back. I got to check with my husband. And I'm going to call you. And she said, okay, well, make sure. Because, I was getting whatever time I wanted. I was working. So my check came and I checked my resignation. And then they called me and was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just can't get down with it. I'm not comfortable with this double case thing. And I tried to talk about it. And y'all looking like, okay, so it's not for me. I'm going to be done. But I do need you to know that I did submit to the board my consent. So I was straight up. I didn't lie to them. Do you know, in 7 months, they called my husband and asked him to have me call them and see if I wanted to come back. I said, well, why would you hire somebody who's down about that? I'm not proud of it, but I did. But in my gut, I thought I worked too hard to get this going. And even though I treated that person, when I realized there was a problem, I acted on it right then. So I had nothing to do with what that practice was. That practice has since been shut down. So, that being said, and I don't feel bad about it at all. Because I thought, well, why y'all don't put me on? Y'all going to lose my stuff. So that's what happened. And all I had to do was submit my, what I knew in writing. And I had one interview. They asked me a couple of questions and that. And within a year, they were shut down. Not just because of me, there were other complaints. So I was down about that. Never done it again, but, things happen and I bet. All right. So let's look at one more thing. We're going to go to that. I think this is it. All right. So under license required exceptions. In general, an individual shall be licensed by the board before the individual may practice physical therapy or limited physical therapy in this state being in Maryland. Exceptions to that, a student who is supervised directly by a licensed physical therapist in a board-approved physical therapy education program, which is you guys, or a physical therapy aide, if the aide, subject to the rules and regulations adopted by the board, performs only procedures that do not require the professional skill of a licensed physical therapist or a licensed physical therapist assistant, and performs procedures only under direct supervision of a licensed physical therapist who is personally present in the area where the procedures are performed. So, what does that mean? That means that I'm a PTA. I've been treating for a long time. When you guys are here in lab, you can treat each other because you're not patients. When you come to my house at Mount Washington, I have a PT in the gym. I can be with Tyler, and Tyler can treat as long as that PT is in the gym. If that PT leaves the gym, she has to take her hands off. She can observe me, she can be with me all day, but she can't put her hands on a patient without a PT in the room. Being presently in the room means that they're in the same room. They're not in the hall, they're not next door, they're not across the hall. They're in this room. They can see Tyler, they know what she's doing. They can also hear her in normal voice tone, right there. Normal voice tone means we don't have to yell, hello! I can turn to Susan and say, I'm sorry, my intern, Tyler, is going to treat her. You okay with that? Not screaming down the hall. So what that means is, if I'm on this floor with Tyler in the gym, and the PT has to go upstairs to the lab on another floor to treat a patient, she can't touch the person. She can watch me, she can tell me what to do, she can be my hand. I'll move, you tell me what to do. You tell me the axis, tell me where to put it, but she can't physically touch the person. Okay? As long as that PT comes back downstairs and is in this room, she can treat. Is that clear? Awesome. We're going to go over those specifics when we get to what the PT aide, A-I-D-E, can do. Now, with the PT aide, it's different. So, if Suella is the aide that works at Mount Washington, and I need to go upstairs and see a patient because I need to get a patient out of bed, I can take her with me, write it down, to be 4 hands on one body. I'll say it again. If Suella is the aide or tech that works with me, and I need to go upstairs to get a patient out of bed, whose max consists of 2 people, I can take her with me as 4 hands on one body. So she can help me, but she can't do it while I sit back and watch. I can't send her to go do it by herself, but she can come and help me. She can help me with a few things. Let me tell you what they are. So 4 hands on one body includes transfers, balance activities, gait training, steps. I'll say them again. Transfer, balance activities, to be sitting or standing. I'm going to go quick them up. Gait training, and steps. Who stand up? Who you stand up? Okay? Tyler's my patient. Okay? Let's assume I have a gate up because I forgot to grab it. But this is my patient. Hold that. Back. No, come back. You went too far. Stop right there. Now, let's say I'm working on balance with Tyler. Tyler's the patient. I'm the PTA. Santosh is my tech. Okay? And I say, okay, Tyler, we're going to work on your balance. Okay? I want you to reach for that pen with your left hand. Go ahead. Reach. Good job. Bring it back. Good. Take it from him. Yep, good girl. All right, now I want you to hand it to Santosh's other side. So turn around. Good. 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 And come back. Good. Okay. Santosh, can you put it up high? Hold it up high. Okay, can you go get it now with this hand? Go get it. Good. And bring it back. Good. Now, give it back to Santosh in his other hand. No, remember? Other hand. Good. His other hand. We're gonna work on this. Yeah. Okay. Can you go low? Can you go low? Put it way down. Keep going. Squat. Then you need to. All right. So Tyler, can you squat down and get that? Then good. So he's my second person, but I'm controlling my patient. Okay. So I'm controlling her. He is my second set of hands. He should not be back here, and I'm over there. See where I'm going now? So I can have him be there. Now, if she falls, if she stumbles, and I need to catch her, he can jump in and help me hold her and keep her safe. But he should not be guarding her. I'm guarding her. Okay? Same thing with the transfer. If we go to get her out of bed, I should be doing the majority of the work. He's assisting me. I shouldn't be sitting there letting him move her, because then he's doing the intervention. So the primary hand is me. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, wait a minute. But does that part make sense? Okay. Same thing with gait training. If I'm walking with her, ready? Let's go. He's going to come with me. If she goes to buckle, he's going to step in and help me. But I'm the one with my hands on her. Are we clear? Yes. Thank you. Both of you. Yes.
Does that only apply to the PTA?
That's what I said. Remember? PT. As long as there's a PT in the room, then the PT. We're going to talk about the tech, because what they do is assist in. They don't actually take charge of anything. So those of you who are tech, my disclaimer is, I don't want to know. Because a lot of you are probably stepping that line or really got a toe in the water. But as a PTA, the only time I can take now Santosh with me is for gait training, transfers, balance activities, steps. When it requires 4 hands for patient safety. What I can't do is say, hey, Santosh, can you go get a hot pack and put it on the table? I can't do that. Now, a PT can do that, but they better be careful, because if they didn't do that skin inspection and that person got burned, the PT burned the patient, not Santosh. Yes.
Yeah, doing a transfer, would you still be at least attempting to do the majority of the work?
I'm doing the work.
Okay, so. Okay.
That's my second set of hands. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody? Sure? Good. Okay, so those are the exceptions to the license, okay? Only on their approved list and students when you're in clinic. So, yes, initially, techs have a little more leeway with a PTA than you do, because Santosh can go with me and work with me, whereas as a student, you can't be my second set of hands if that PT is not there. Are we clear? Awesome. All right, let's look at exceptions. So again, approved program. So we are approved by CAFE, which means you guys can treat. When you came in and you signed that liability form, it's because you're not a patient. That's what allows Dr. Dyer and I, who are PTAs, to train and assist you in labs, because you're not patients. There are times where we have people from the college who come in and work with us. They sign a waiver understanding that you're a student. But actual patients have to have a PT in the room. Okay? Unless you're a tech and you're doing non-professional pre-approved skills, and we're going to talk about that tech list when we get to the standards of practice. Okay? Clear on that? Yeah? We're going to take a minute. Let's go deep. And we'll come back 10 minutes. And I'll move the break. Because I moved the